Welcome back, everyone, to Author Story. I'm your host, Alexander Lim, and our guest, Beth Cramer, is the author of Why Didn't I Notice Her Before? A memoir about dying to live, which you can check out right now by clicking the Amazon link in the video description below. Beth is an editor and director who launched Brave Films in 2007 and who produces independent films, commercials, music videos, and branded content. She is also a member of New York Women in Film and Television, and her work includes campaigns for Clairol, Levi's, Sprint Chase, and ESPN. So, Beth, welcome to Author Story. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thanks, Alex. Happy to be here.
Great. So, a little bit on your background first. You're into film. So, what was it that interested you into getting into film?
You know, I'm a storyteller. And
Okay.
I use a lot, and so I mean, film was the medium of choice. I think when I was 9, I sat down and started writing ballads on my piano.
Mm,
Anyway, I can get my message across, and I chose film. Was an editor, film
hmm
editor, and I thought, I'm kind of it was a great way to see from directors successes and mistakes, and learn myself in a director's seat,
mm,
so to speak, as an editor,
right.
with all that. So yeah, no, I've been enjoying a very long film career, mainly television commercials, music
Mm-hmm.
videos. You read it all.
Okay, all right. So yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't really think of, advertisements, commercial stuff like that as being quote serious unquote. But there
Mhm.
there really is a lot of storytelling to be told within the advertisement format and stuff like that, correct?
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think it's more for me. It was more the craft. I mean, I had to sit
Mm,
down with 2, 3 hours worth of footage,
mm-hmm,
film given to me, and whittle it down to a 30-second commercial. And I think you really learn to tell a story when you're given that time constraint. And I've always just wanted to pull at the heartstrings, no matter whether it was Pampers or Pepsi. To me,
right.
it was just the craft of filmmaking, and I tried my best to sort of keep the thought that it was advertising out of it, which,
Mm-hmm,
yeah, I mean, that I always want to do something maybe a little bit more serious,
mm-hmm,
like this book. Yeah,
right.
but it was a craft.
Okay. And of course, you've also done independent films, right? I mean, are these like short films, short stories,
I
or?
did a document. No, I did a documentary about women, single women choosing to be parents without a partner.
Mm,
Uh, they
okay.
wanted mothers. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Okay. Great. And Brave Films. What made you decide to set up Brave Films? I mean, really, you don't need to set up your own company to just tell a story, do you?
Well, sure you do. I mean, in
Okay.
production, you have to put together a team, and
Right.
there's
Right.
all, like I said, I do all kinds of productions. So, yeah, you do need to have some kind of a, you know, um, brand.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. And yeah. Okay. Cool. So I guess it's been going on pretty well since then.
Yes, and then in 2017, I got a cancer diagnosis,
Right.
and it shifted my perspective and my life and the things that
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to focus on career wise.
Yeah.
And yeah, so then I wrote this book. Why didn't I
Mm-hmm.
notice her before?
Yeah.
Um, because of that.
Right. And get on the subject of the cancer. I mean, you were diagnosed with stage 4 ovarian cancer. This tumor, from what I understand, is pretty big, right? I mean, 14 centimeters is something like 5.5 inches. And
Exactly. Yeah.
and
Talking about,
this was discovered during a routine medical appointment. I mean, I'm thinking, 5.5 inches. Didn't you have any idea you had that?
ovarian cancer, they termed it the silent killer for a
Okay.
reason.
All
Symptoms
right.
are often mistaken with benign conditions like being a woman. It's
Mm-hmm.
like you have gastrointestinal system changes,
Mm-hmm.
you're getting older. I had a bloated belly, which
Uh-huh.
really, for a woman, I mean, you think, oh, I'm going through menopause, or
Right.
oh, it is, or I have some, irritable bowel syndrome. These are just symptoms of being a person. So it's really hard to diagnose, and there
Mm.
is no really great diagnostic tool in order to discover it. So I had a bloated belly for about, I don't know, probably 6, 7 months, and I
Right.
laughed at it, and I'm petite woman, but of course I never would have gone right to ovarian cancer, and I have no history of it in my
Right.
family.
Right.
So yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and I mean stage 4, from what I understand, this is cancer that's spread throughout the body from its original point of origin. Was the cancer that's discovered, was this the source cancer or did it come from somewhere else?
Yeah, no, it came from it grew in the ovaries.
Okay,
Um, what I have is called. It's funny we're talking about this because I don't often think and talk medical terms, and this book is so far from medical.
all right.
And it's interesting though because it's just sort of like revisiting and researching it again. But
Mm-hmm,
yeah, no, it stemmed from the ovaries
mm-hmm,
or the fallopian tubes, and
mm-hmm,
it can grow very, very quickly and progress quickly. So
mm.
when they caught it, it was in the advanced stages, and it was had metastasized to my lymph nodes in my neck and my
Wow.
chest.
Wow. Okay, so this is pretty darn serious then, I mean, if it's spread that far.
Yeah, I mean, I say that advanced stages, can happen within a year. And of course, there was absolutely I had no signs.
Right,
I was perfectly fine. I actually went in for heartburn
right.
to see a gastro, and I had a little lump in my pelvis, and I said, hey, I just want to check this. I'm sure it's going to go away.
Right,
You all
right.
have those things.
Mm-hmm,
And the doctor touched it and sent me for a CAT scan, and then
mm-hmm.
all was revealed.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
And so what are you still undergoing the regimen that you need to do to remove a
I,
tumor? I
you know,
mean,
it's, yeah, well, I do. I still get infusions. So I've had the last 5 months off, and I have a CAT
okay.
scan coming up that will
Right.
tell me if I have to, go back or not. So
All right.
yeah, I've
Well,
been through all the
yeah.
first line of therapy that they have every patient go through, and then that wasn't fully successful, so I have to
Mhm.
continue to go. Yeah.
Right, right. Well, here's hoping that they find it gone,
Mm.
by the next check. All right.
Just
Now,
gotta, yeah.
yeah. So the thing with cancer, I mean, it's not a disease. It just affects a person. I mean, it affects your family, those close to you, your friends.
Yes.
I guess I don't really have to imagine really, but I'm imagining, I assume that the impact, I mean, it was pretty big on your husband, your family, and your son.
It was so, the thing about my particular story, and it's all talk. I talk about it all, and the stories are laid out in Why Didn't I Notice Her Before? But I had been suffering from anxiety and
Mm,
feelings of regret for about 7 years prior to my diagnosis.
okay.
And I believe it or not, I was actually writing a novel about a
Mm-hmm,
woman who had cancer
mm-hmm.
uh, 6 months prior to my own diagnosis.
Uh-huh.
I didn't I didn't have the material. I was struggling to get the story right.
Mm-hmm,
None of it made sense. Why did I even choose this? As I
mm-hmm.
told my husband that the subject of my novel, he's like, "That's so depressing."
Right.
Um, I'm like, "I know. I don't know why I chose it. I pretty much pre-configured my own illness." So when I found out I had cancer, I kind of felt like, "Wow!" First of all, it's so ironic. How
Right.
interesting. I'm very, very curious, and I got a lot of clarity. So I think a
Uh-huh.
lot of people get diagnosed and they feel fear and anger,
Right.
and they for me it offered new perspective. I had
Uh-huh.
clarity, and I actually learned how to live in the moment. It's
Mm,
unfortunate, you shouldn't have to live like you're dying to
mm-hmm,
live to live your truth,
mm-hmm.
but that is what happened.
Hmm. Okay, okay. So I mean, this is cancer is an up and down. Psychologically, it's an up and down thing. Like sometimes you're feeling good, sometimes you're really down in the dumps. But from the start, there's a question I guess that you should be asking when you get this. I mean, the question I think is, should I even fight this thing? How do I go about it?
Well, that is a chapter in my book, Should I Fight?
Right?
And I have a very loving, close family. I have my husband, and I have a young son who's now a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
I have three sisters and a mother and father, and they all want to, they want to see me live for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I could have felt like, oh, I'm off the hook. This is, I'm suffering from anxiety, and I don't have all these expectations, and I can just ride it out. I don't have to
Right,
like
right.
live like there's a past or a future. And I did look at some holistic alternative methods to treat the cancer,
Mm-hmm.
but ultimately there's no promise that those work. There's
Right.
no you know um, I had to go the traditional the traditional. I had to take the approach of Western medicine for my family, and then maybe later on, and do integrative approaches like acupuncture and massage and body work.
Right.
But you have people to live for.
Right, right, okay, and I guess that's kind of like where is if I may ask, this is kind of like where you got your, I know, for lack of a better word, your strength, your belief that I'm gonna work this thing.
Well, I was living, and I was just happy to live in the moment
Okay,
and have people by my side who
right,
would, take me to my appointments and be there with me to laugh, to cry.
right,
But I didn't, I wasn't ready to just give up, but that wasn't really about me as much as it was for my loved ones.
mm, okay, okay, right, and I mean you did mention this, but support is very important for someone undergoing treatment for cancer. I mean, this is support of friends, support of family. This is very important to the person concerned.
Yes, it is. And, I've read things in the beginning. People would give me books, how positivity can cure cancer and how much support of your family can make such a difference. And, I don't know if I believe that in
Right,
particularly,
right.
but I do believe that certainly it makes it a heck of a lot more comfortable. And my sisters and my mom, they all live in Washington, D.C.,
Mm-hmm.
and I live in New York, my
Mm-hmm.
husband and my son. And I did end up getting the majority of my treatments in Washington, D.C., and having my
Mm-hmm.
sisters and mom take care of me and in their presence. And that's a whole different, that's got its own story, which is just beautiful. And a lot of readers from my book say how moved they are by that relationship. So it helps. There's no question that it can help, at least make you live well while you're
Right,
here.
right, right. Okay. And in your book, I mean, I'm sure you've got a lot of stories in your book. I mean, very personal, very deep stories. What would you say would be the most personal one that you've written down? Something that you wouldn't have written down if you had not gotten this. Something like that.
Well, certainly the beginning of the book, which is more serious than the majority of the book. The book is very funny. I mean, people
Uh-huh.
say they laugh and cry in the same sentence. I really
Right.
do. My mom always, she's astounded that I wrote this book on the most reserved of four daughters. And here I
Mm-hmm.
write this book. It's just like so raw. But I do reveal at the beginning, I'm not going to give it away in this interview, but I reveal some things that were very difficult for me to overcome. In fact, I feel like I
Right.
targeted my own cancer. I
Mm-hmm.
targeted um, my ovaries. I
Mm-hmm.
had some obsession with parenting. I had a child. I didn't feel like I had enough. That was very
Mm-hmm.
difficult to write and to reveal about myself. Those were dark times.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but some of the other things, also just telling the truth about how funny it is, the many ways you can use the cancer card or the C card, as we like to
Mm-hmm.
say it in the cancer business.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, just like being really, really honest in all the
Mm-hmm.
situations that I was in.
Mm-hmm.
So, I talk about silly things like wearing a wig and how hard
Okay.
that can be. You go into a hot yoga class and you're wearing a wig because you have this because you're being modest, and then you're like
Right. Right.
sweating all over the place, and then you go out and you come back in without the wig and everyone's looking at you like, what happened? Or someone goes in to hug you and they pull your wig back, it's inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
And then your whole forehead showing. I mean, there's so many moments, and they're comical moments, really. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
they're painful, but they're comical. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's more than just trying to get out of late fees or your expired registration when the cop pulls you over and you say, "Oh, cancel."
Right. Okay. So yeah, I mean, what I find interesting is that the book is not, for lack of a better word, a doom and gloom kind of book. I mean, there's some perspective to this, and as you mentioned, there's a lot of humor.
There is. It's not. I would not consider this a depressing book. I
Mm-hmm.
think, when I think about my audience, I think they are not people who necessarily have cancer,
Mm-hmm.
or even caregivers. I think what's happening is a lot of people are recognizing themselves in the writing and
Mm-hmm.
in the stories because they're just honest. And cancer is the catalyst
Mm-hmm.
for all these stories. So I think it just resonates on a human level. Men, women. I mean, men have the capacity to feel the same things women do, even if it's losing their hair.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's more about it's just about how we navigate this crazy world with crazy minds.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of all of us,
Okay.
whether you or not.
Yeah, why not? Okay, so let me ask you about this book. I mean, there's a lot of books out there on cancer, memoirs, scientific journals, and all that stuff.
Mm.
What is it about your book that makes it unique? You know, like something that someone would want to get, someone would want to pick up.
Right. Well, it touches on so many different subjects. There's so many different themes from being a sister, the bonds of sisterhood, from religion. But joking like why I joke, why couldn't I just been a Buddhist? I'm Jewish,
Hmm.
and there's so many different explanations. You can just pick and choose for everything. And
Right,
it's like I
right.
just want things to be very black and white. Just tell me what to do. It's definitely not clinical. It is not
Hmm.
medical. It's not like
Hmm.
like nobody. I really don't want to read about being in an infusion center. Though there is one
Right.
chapter how it's very very funny and a little bit graphic. But I mean, I talk about relationships. I talk about
Hmm.
sex when you have
Hmm.
cancer. I think I just it's so personal,
Hmm.
but it's really relatable. So I
Hmm.
think it's like you can get right into it. And I feel very, very fortunate. So many people have told me, the majority of people have told me they read it, even reluctant readers, they read
Hmm.
it in a day and a half,
Hmm.
sometimes in one sitting, which is like the biggest compliment I can
Wow.
get. You know?
Yeah. All right. I mean, that's a pretty involving read then. I mean, for a person to read a book in one reading, I
Yeah,
mean, that's
yeah.
that's a pretty compelling read.
It's entertaining, and it is. I mean, I think it's also like I think I think people are fascinated that it's so authentic,
Hmm. Hmm.
and yet they can still see themselves in it. And there's so much irony. I mean, I was just given a story that was ripe. I mean, I was writing a novel, and it quickly braided into this memoir.
Right, right,
But I hate the word. I always hate to tell people I wrote a memoir because it sounds so personal,
right.
and but it's not. It's not like that.
Hmm.
Um, I didn't write a memoir because I've had this very full life and have all these interesting things to share.
Right.
I think these little stories, these short stories that form a larger picture of somebody who is going through something. In this case, cancer was the catalyst.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So many lessons. So many lessons
Mm,
that I had.
mm,
Yeah.
okay, all right. Speaking of lessons, what would you say would be the biggest lesson you've gotten from your experience?
Well, you know, for me, and it's not even a lesson because it just happened, and
Okay, all
that
right.
I was released from this really horrible trauma,
Mm,
post-traumatic stress disorder that I didn't wouldn't wish on anybody, but I couldn't put
mm,
it down.
okay,
And
okay.
so I had the greatest one of the greatest lessons is accepting the fact that things happen for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
So this diagnosis, it happened for a reason, and as horrible as it can be, as it doesn't have a great outcome, perhaps. But right
Mm-hmm.
now, the outcome's great. I'm not waking up with this like anxiety. And then
Mm-hmm.
I think also be careful. And maybe it's not the same question you're asking, but like a lot of people go right to juicing and trying to do all these things that they see on the internet and they read and
Mm-hmm.
they a million different contradictory things to do from different modalities
Right.
of healers. And juicing is just punitive. So I
Mm-hmm.
refuse to do that stuff. It's like the first thing I said when I found out I got cancer was like, I'm not gonna do anything I don't want to do anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right,
um,
right.
to cancer is just no non-denial. I mean, I always
Mm-hmm.
ate and drank. I always ate well,
Mm-hmm.
organic, not processed. I exercised, but pretty much I've just not denied myself what feels good.
Mm-hmm. Okay, all right. Okay, cool. So, Beth, how has how has your life changed? I mean, like for example, who was Beth Cramer before compared to who Beth Cramer is now?
Mm. Well, it's interesting. It's always the hardest question. I was always very. I used to be very idealistic and
Okay,
determined, and
okay.
certainly use my creativity to express myself. And then there was a time there where, and it's in the book, I had an event that really brought on a lot of fear
Mm-hmm.
and questioning, and
Mm-hmm.
I was very uncertain. I mean, the only certainty was that I had done something that was wrong, that shifted my life in a wrong path.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just a lot of there was not a lot of self kindness there for about 7 years.
Okay.
Um, I built a career in film. Yes, I have a wonderful family at home, very, very fortunate. But regardless of all that, there was existential crisis going on. And so the cancer, after cancer sort of silenced this inner critic. Because it didn't matter anymore. It didn't matter what I'd done. It didn't matter what the future was going to hold. I could see the essence of myself again. I could just see this person who was just living her best, doing the best she could. So I think it cleared the clutter, it calmed the seas, and I was able to be like, I'm enjoying this moment now. I can see my husband, I could see my son, and hang out with my sisters. I don't have to be rushing off to like finish that, even if it's the book,
Right.
So I was living closer to my truth.
Okay.
It's hard. It's not always possible. But I've seen it, and I know it's possible. So when I stray from it, I just try to remember.
Okay. All right. Nice. Okay. So, just to ask, was there anything that was, for example, like really, really, really important to you before your diagnosis, which is not that quite that important nowadays, or or vice versa?
Mm. I mean, they're all lies, right? I mean,
Okay.
whatever
Right.
they were.
Right.
I think whatever was important to me, I was holding on to those things because it was serving me in some way. And I think I'm still going through some spiritual growth, so I can question those things. I think having more family, having more children, thinking I was going to fall off the face of the earth without more
Right.
love to get, the fact that I couldn't picture my life in the future as an maturing.
Right.
These were how was it going to look? Was they going to produce that next film that wasn't that won awards? Things like that, none of us know what's going to happen tomorrow. And so there's a lot of time and energy put into worrying and wanting something that's going to happen tomorrow when all we have is like this moment.
Right. Right. Okay. All right. Cool. Okay. Got that. So, Beth, let's say you came across someone, who's either been recently diagnosed with cancer or is someone who is close to someone who has recently been diagnosed with cancer, and you had only enough time to tell that person one thing about how to deal with the situation. What would you say?
Right. I'd say don't second guess yourself, your instincts, and try to say F it. I can't say it, right? F you.
Right. Yeah.
As much as
Okay.
you can, not to hurt other people, but to go for it. Because I mean, I'm not talking about like create a whole new future, but just to go for it and pay attention to the signs. Try to laugh. Try to laugh. Like there's a lot of downtime in cancer, sitting in infusion centers, waiting for your blood draws and so forth. But try to see the comedy in the situation. There's a lot to laugh at, actually. I mean, and it's happening. Surround yourself with comfortable things as well. And don't juice. Don't juice.
Don't juice. Okay. All right. Got that.
It's just bad.
All right. So, okay then. So, Beth, in the last minute or so of this interview, we're winding down now. Are there any last words of wisdom you'd like to share, maybe to inspire our listeners?
I think that I do not wish anybody to get cancer, to have to learn lessons that I am currently learning. I think just try to really live closer to your truth as possible.
Right.
And feel as you're doing something like this is what I'm doing right now. Right now I'm talking to Alex.
Right.
I mean, I have something to do later on. I got to get to a class, but I mean, this is what I'm doing. I think just trying to pay attention. It can really help with your own anxiety, and I think so many people are feeling anxiety. So yeah, there's so many lessons and they're all in the book. So I say, get Why Didn't I Notice Her Before, and read the book. And I think it's probably you're going to see yourself in it one way or another. And you're going to see things, even though the things can be really, really tragic, perhaps, there's also a lot to learn and a lot of humor in it. And it's called life. So, yeah, I'd say Why Didn't I Notice Her Before? If I can shamelessly publicize my book.
Yeah, no problem. That's what this is all about. Okay, then. So, all right, then. So, in closing, then, the book, as Beth has said several times before, is Why Didn't I Notice Her Before? A memoir about dying to live. The author is our guest, Beth Cramer. You can find her book on Amazon. So, Beth, thank you very much for being an author story. I must say it was very, very interesting, very inspiring to speak with you.
Thank you so much, Alex.
You're welcome. So everyone, check out Why Didn't I Notice Her Before, and also feel free to explore our channel and click on the subscribe button to join us. So catch you all next time on Author Story, where we speak to another fantastic author about their book.